if somebody's doing something that is impactful, then let's come together and let's collaborate to have an impact. And so, I think it's that way with competitors. It's interesting. One of our big competitors is also a client, right? So there's this balance of a willingness to say, okay, you know what, you bring this to the table, we can bring this to the table. There must be some way we can come together, have greater impact. And, I think in a smaller market, there's this thing of we want to share our knowledge so that you can have greater impact and you can create these things and we can enable you in some kind of way, or you can maybe use our technology differently than we had ever even thought of or considered. And so I think competition is a good thing, but I think it's even more exciting when you can somehow come together, because when you can have huge impact.
Welcome to Events Demystified podcast, where we explore and demystify the world of in-person, virtual, hybrid event AV production and technology by sharing insightful tips, tricks and tactics to make your events a success. This podcast is brought to you by Tree Fan Events, a woman-owned boutique event production agency. And your host is Entrepreneurship, a technical event planner and producer with almost 2 decades of hands-on technical experience in event production.
Welcome to another episode of Events Demystified podcast, your one-stop shop for tangible, technical, and practical planning advice for anyone in the events industry. Today's podcast is sponsored by Tree Fan Events, and I am your host, Anka Trifan. Before we get into details regarding today's episode, let me first address the elephant in the room. This thing sitting on top of my head, I do not know what to call it. I tried to fix it, and the harder I tried, the more it started leaning like the Leaning Tower of Pisa to the side, and I had to stop. So that's all I'm going to say about that. The second housekeeping thing that I'm going to touch on is my voice. Well, it sounds exactly how I feel. I got this cold a couple of weeks ago, and just like your mother-in-law, it won't leave me. So now that's out of the way, I will go on to bigger and better things. On today's episode, I have the honor of talking to one of Idaho's most amazing women in tech, someone that's busy like a bee, doing some amazing things. Reasons why I had a bit of a trouble just nailing a time and a date down during our season, Women Behind the Scenes in Events and Event Productions. But since there's no shortage of topics to cover, today I finally have her on the show with me. So we're going to have a wonderful conversation, and we're going to touch a little bit on mental and physical fitness just because that's the focus this season. And for that, the huge reveal. I get to talk to Amy Guile, the CEO and founder of Silverdraft, the leading builder of computing platforms for creative arts, graphics, and design, a leader in entrepreneurship and high-performance graphics technology. Amy Guile has played many roles in her life, among them model, actress, film producer, and tech CEO. She began her career in the media and entertainment industry in multiple aspects of the industry. Amy identified this need for a faster solution and workflow for the entire production, and also the artists, the demands of rendering, animation, visual effects that required a sophisticated approach to computing. And this wizard wow woman with latent talent for technology just knew instinctively that there must be a better, faster way to bring complex content to the masses. And so she co-founded Silverdraft and has dedicated herself to enabling and accelerating the visualization workflow with complete solutions for various industries, including automotive, AEC, and media, and entertainment. Amy is passionate about technology and pushing what's possible. You can learn more about Amy by following the links in the episode notes. And in the meantime, it is my greatest pleasure to welcome her in. Welcome to the show, Amy. How are you doing? What a pleasure to have another powerhouse female in a male-dominated field. Okay, let me just say, I'm giggling and I'm like beyond myself. So exciting.
Oh, it is a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. So we're finally here.
We're finally here. Happy New Year to you. How do you feel about 2023?
Happy New Year. I'm ready for 2023. 2022 was a lot. It has been a whirlwind. Things have been changing so much for Silverdraft and myself. And I'm ready to kind of tackle 2023 and see what's ahead for all of us. I'm excited about it.
That's awesome. It's so funny because just the beginning of the week, I was looking at my calendar and I was like, I don't know what 2023 is going to look like. Like I have a few things confirmed and I have a lot of things in the air. Today, I guess, smacked with 10 confirmed huge events. And I'm like, this is just like yesterday. I was like, I don't know. Today, I'm like, which one am I going to pick now?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Like, I'm gonna have to make some choices.
Right? Like yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm getting a little bit of anxiety. It's beginning of the year and I don't see what's happening, right? I love when things are happening. Don't get me wrong, because I love planning. But when it's like all happening at once, that's when you're like, wait a second, hold on, one thing at a time.
When it rains, it pours.
Yeah. So excited to having this conversation with you. Excited to talk about graphics and technology. I mean, we're going to definitely dive into that. That's super interesting, especially as a female leader in a very male dominated field. I mean, seriously, like my question to you is like, we're both local to Boise. And honestly, when I get to travel, and I get to travel a lot, I always get this side look when I tell people that I'm from Boise, like, where is that? How does a Boise native who made her way, around the world, right? Like you were in New York and then Paris, and then as an elite model, you end up in Hollywood. I mean, it's the dream job, right? And not only that, you're an actress, you're a producer. And then on top of everything, you develop this fascination, which I don't think it's normal for models and actresses to just happen to develop a fascination for technology and the process behind what does it take to produce great art and entertainment that eventually leads you into creating a company that builds breakthrough tools for visual creativity that have basically changed the way things are done. How does one get to do that? Like, I'm so curious to find out.
I get asked this question, and I think the main thing really has just been this openness and willingness to see what can be, right? Like, I've never been one to be, okay, stuck. This is the path. This is what I'm supposed to do. There's just a willingness to continue to learn and evolve and realize that little tweaks can make huge, significant changes in things. And the story makes sense when you kind of have the full path of it. I mean, I've always was technical. I just didn't know that, right? I grew up in a time where girls did certain things, boys did certain things. And it's not that I ever like purposely put that hat on myself. That's just kind of how it was. But my curiosity in that never changed. I took things apart. I put things back together. I like solving challenges and puzzles. And even in my modeling career and my acting career, it was that understanding of lighting, understanding of all the other pieces and parts so I could do my job better, which makes sense of how I ended up as a producer, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, let's do all the pieces and puzzles.
Yeah, let's change a few things over here.
And so I loved researching technology and realized that it was like, well, this is just X's and O's. What's happening in the world of supercomputing and what we're doing digitally, it's X's and O's. So
is there a moment where you can go in your journey and say, I think that was like a monumental moment for me when I knew that I'm different than all the other girls out there that are playing with dolls and I don't know, like dress ups and doing their hairs and stuff. I mean, not that we don't do that, right? It took me many years into my life to learn that that's okay to do.
And I still like that stuff.
Right? And was there like a moment you can say, okay, I can pinpoint that to be like, when I look at my journey, I know it was this moment when I found myself playing more in my dad's workshop than in my mom's kitchen.
Definitely. But I still would like cook with my grandmother or do these creative things. But my father was an architect and he would do so much digitally. And I would love, going to his office and kind of experiencing that. I mean, I probably should have been an architect, but, just that understanding of his world and what he was able to accomplish digitally. I mean, he was doing things as an architect well before his time with AutoCAD and
Yep.
Revit and pushing the boundaries. I mean, even now with Autodesk as a partner of ours, having conversations with them about what he was doing when he was doing, it was kind of unheard of. And so he was a great example in business and what can be done creatively with technology. And so there wasn't this huge leap and jump when we were shifting on the film side digitally. I had that kind of, I know what we can do with that. And I know how we can save time and money to really achieve the goals for the creatives that needed to be achieved, but yet meet the needs and goals of the producer mindset of, okay, we can't be wasting so much time and money. We need that creative piece, but there has to be a marriage there and a balance. And I had this, I don't know how to explain it, but this understanding in my own mind of where these things were going and heading. And that's never changed for me. Through starting Silverdraft from where we are now, where, we want to take things.
It's like this instinct that you followed, it sounds like, throughout your life, that you knew maybe at times I can't vocalize it, I can't put it into words, but I know this is the way to go.
Exactly. I just know. And that seems And, sometimes it's interesting because my CTO, I'll just be like, Eric, I just know. And he's like, okay, I'm there with you. I got it. We're good.
It takes experience and takes like history that you would have together to understand. I trust that you're going to follow your gut and it's going to take us in the right direction versus, oh yeah, I have this instinct and everybody's like,
but I think at the start of this, I think a lot of people probably thought I was extremely crazy. Now it's like, okay, maybe she's not so nutty.
So we're going to unpack a little bit of that because in most cases, most of the thought leaders of our time, there was a point in their life when everybody else thought they're crazy, right? I mean, I don't know anyone that's done something different where nobody around thought, okay, that is out of the box. Not only that is out of the box, you basically build a brand new box that I have no idea what this is, and we can wrap our mind around it. And that's perfectly fine, and I can't wait to dive into that. One thing that I want to go right now towards, because it's just part of this journey, the genesis of everything. One of my favorite mottos says that nothing worth having comes easy. Nothing worth fighting for really should be easy. And honestly, as I'm thinking of your journey and I was trying to conceptualize, what did that look like? If I were you, to compete with the old guard in their own playground, that wasn't easy. And you make it look like it was a breeze, but honestly, I don't believe that was easy, but it was so worth it. And so in order for me to understand and our audience to just catch a glimpse of this amazing journey that you took to get where you are and the challenges that you had to overcome at time, I would love for you to take us on to this journey through the struggles that took you from being the elite model that you were to becoming the founder of Silverdraft, the builder of this platform that can do amazing things in the world of creative arts, graphics, and design. What are some of the challenges you had to overcome to get here?
There's been so many challenges along the way. How you are taken seriously or not taken seriously. And I think the main thing that I really had to do was not prove myself, but prove the technology, right? And show what could be done. Be willing to do bake-offs. Be willing to say, okay, I get that that's how you do it, and that's the pain points that you normally have, and that's become part of your workflow, but let's try something different. And instead of me trying to sell anything, I just had to prove it.
So show, don't tell, basically.
Exactly. Show, don't tell. This is what it is. Be willing to do these crazy bake-offs, basically, where you're in a room and you're going up against the big boys who are like,
what are you doing here?
Let it just prove it, right? Yeah. Just prove it and not make it about myself, not make it about even what it is we were selling, but make it about what it is they are doing, what it is they need to do the creative, amazing things that they want to do. And by making it about that and not about myself or not about our company or not about our product per se, other than it better perform, and continuing to prove that, then gradually this thing called word of mouth and this organic thing started to happen because we're enablers, right? We're just enablers. And our technology and what we do is literally driven by our clients and the really cool, amazing things that they are doing. And instead of focusing on us, it's about focusing on them and what they need and how they can collaborate with this technology. And I mean, you do that, all this other stuff frees up. Right. But that's not the normal way of doing. That's not what a CEO is supposed to do or the way a CEO is supposed to act. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm a CEO, so this is how I'm going to act. And, just drive what we're doing in the tech through that. And as a female, if I succeed and can prove myself, then that's going to have impact. Right. So
absolutely. So how has stepping out of your comfort zone in some of those rooms that you're having those conversations look like for you in the pursuit of this passion? At this point, is not just a fascination, right? It's a passion. It's something that you know that you can deliver and you're going after it with everything you've got.
It is about going after it with everything you got. You need to believe in it. You need to be willing to take the risk. I have no fear of failure, right? Like, okay, you fail, then you figure out how you're not going to do it. And so that willingness to say, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? We fail? Well, that would really suck, but it would suck more for, our clients. Maybe I shouldn't say that word, but,
you rather fail yourself at your own task than having to, have fail a huge project, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Or, this willingness to just go after it and take the big risks. If you take the big risks, then, wonderful things can come out of it.
So going outside of your comfort zone, what does that look like for you personally? When you wake up in the morning, right? And you're like, today I'm just going to go out of my comfort zone. I can't wait. Just see me shine, right? What does that look like for you?
I have to be willingness to not be good at what's happening, right? Like I try to surround myself with all of these really brilliant people and be okay to say, I have no idea. How do we do that? I don't know. And every day with our clients, it's something new. Like they're pushing something that's never been done before. And they're relying on us to build that technology and the workflow to make that happen. And usually it's live, there's no room for error. And so, getting out of my comfort zone is not having the answers or not playing it safe, being willing to get egg on my face because it's all on me, right? If it doesn't work, if it doesn't fail, it's on my shoulders. And I take that on and I will back up my team and what they're doing to the death because they have to not be afraid to take risks and push. And so I don't want them to feel like they fail, then they're not successful. They don't really fail, right? Because there's no right answer with this. You just figure out how to make it happen and how to make it work. And that's the fun part about all of it. Right?
So that turns you into becoming the brave person that you have to be to stand your ground and stand on your own and also develop a bit of a thick skin, right? You just have to do it. Otherwise, you're going to go home and hide into a corner and cry yourself to sleep because it's hard when things don't work the way you plan, right? I mean, it's hard for all of us, but when the stakes are that high, the implications are so much higher. So one question that I have for you, what is one lesson that you feel like you had a season in your life where the universe just kept bringing in front of you that you needed to learn again and again?
It's funny because, I recently posted a thing about New Year's and, being true to me. And I think when I first started all of this, there's this, oh, you're the CEO, right? And I'm like, no, I'm just me. And we're all working together to collaborate to make something happen and to help and enable. And so when I started speaking, I'm like, wait a minute, I've always had a script as an actor or modeling train, you're like, they dress you and it's this whole scenario. And now with Silverdraft, I'm like, I have to be me. And that was difficult at first. And I think that it's the lesson that I am still learning every day, that I just need to be me. Whatever quirkiness that is, it doesn't matter if I say the right thing or the wrong thing. I do these things called Amyisms, which is, and I'm
which
like,
we all have.
oh my gosh, I can't believe that just came out of my mouth. That recently happened on stage. And I'm just like, wow. But I just have to be okay with that. And so at one point, I'm trying to remember, it was an onstage moment, a really big one where I was flown to Singapore and it was like thousands of people. And I had to like put on this hat. And I'm like, how do I do this? As an actor, do I need to like put the CEO hat on and this character? And, I got through it and it was fine, but something changed. And I'm sure the TEDx talk was part of it, but this willingness to just unzip it. This is me. And I think that is an everyday reminder that I just have to say, okay, I'm enough. I've got an incredible team behind me. We're doing really incredible things. Because when you build a company, you don't realize, okay, you're going to be the face of this company. You're just trying to do it. You're just trying to make things happen, build the tech, and suddenly you're thrown into this role that it changes as the company expands and grows and scales. That changes. And my role as CEO changes as well, as the face of Silverdraft. And so a willingness just to embrace that and accept that. So don't let me get away with it. You can keep reminding me.
I love it. It's funny because regardless as women, where we're at in our journey and what level of success we achieve, and it's always a growth trajectory, right? Like you're always going to be in the next stage. And sometimes you fall back and then you get up again and keep going. But there's this thing that within ourselves, we struggle with, this sometimes imposter syndrome, or not being enough, or not being worthy to be in front of all these people or in front of all this, amazing other humans. Like we're not one of those amazing other humans, and it's interesting to hear that in between the lines, because it goes to say that we have to work so much on ourselves to just be ourselves, authentic selves, like you said, that reminder, that lesson that we all have to learn, that it's okay to be yourself and that's enough. And there is no need to add additional fluff, because this person that you look at yourself in the mirror is what brought you this far. It wasn't anyone else, right?
Interesting that you say that, because you were talking about that change of being different than other girls with regards to makeup in fashion or dolls or tech. And honestly, suddenly I got to the place as CEO of Silverdraft. I love fashion, right? I love not dressing the norm or wearing the flowered pants or the sparkly blazer, and I had tried for a while to tone that stuff down. I'm like, oh, I'm CEO of Silverdraft. And now I'm like, oh, heck no. I am wearing those flowered pants and I can, and if I want to accessorize, I can accessorize. And there's nothing wrong with it as, a female to do that. And if, you're going to have to take me with all my craziness along with all my crazy fashion sense.
And that's the growth, right? Like the growth of becoming yourself. And I feel like for us mature women, it takes us a minute to get there. As a 4-year-old mature woman that still acts like a child at times, you know what? I finally am okay with who I am and being in my own skin. Yeah. And I won't apologize for it. And I won't longer hide parts of me that before, like you said, I would be embarrassed, oh, I can't show the world that I like this or like that, or I like to put my hair this way, or I like to wear lashes and sometimes I glue them upside down and then I show up in the world and we're looking at it what happened? Don't ask, don't worry, mind your own business, because I mind my own.
So true.
So here's the question for you, piggybacking on what we just talked about. I would love for us to take us on this genesis story of how did Silverdraft become to be what it is, and how do you explain that to, say, your girlfriends that you do your nails with and sometimes have very little understanding of what exactly do you do for a living, Amy? I try to explain my friends and they're like, just over their heads. Don't worry about it. Let's just enjoy today, right? So take us on that journey and tell us a little bit about the genesis of Silverdraft, how it came to be.
I mean, at first it was a matter of just taking small steps, right? What's going to ease an artist's workflow? And initially that was rendering, right? How can we take rendering real time. We did that. That was kind of unheard of, right? And they're like, we don't need real time rendering. That's when that's when, they're playing ping pong. I'm like, no, I think you actually do, because if a creative is working and whatever's going on in his brain as he's creating, you can't have the spinning wheel of death in the computer. Then he's losing that creativity. An artist needs that freedom to just dump, right? And that's how I looked at it. How can we make computers fast enough so that the computer is at the same speed as the creative's mind, right? That's a very doable thing to do, right? We can make the computer faster than the creative's mind. So,
well, it wasn't at the time. I mean, if you think about how far the microchips and all the components that make those supercomputers so fast, right? Like just the size of a computer just shrinking and shrinking to what it used to be, as we both got into the computer technology, several decades ago. I mean, that's amazing. And we're just finally scratching the surface. Like, what I'm so excited about is for you to tell us more about the advancement in technology that you see from your point of view, and the tools that can be used for creativity, visual creativity especially, and the recent innovations that you feel like will change everything as we enter into this new era of Web3 and the metaverse.
Yeah, photorealism is key, because if it's photoreal, then your mind believes it. And here we are creating basically digital twins in the metaverse. And for us, we don't look at the metaverse as, oh, I'm going to this other space and I'm looking at things and I'm just going to buy stuff. We look at it as that you're making choices and decisions and you're designing and you're creating in this world, so that you're making mistakes or decisions there before it's real in this world. But to really do that and do that accurately, it needs to be photoreal. So, when we started out on, okay, we're going to solve rendering for the creatives in this speed, then it was a matter of, okay, what is the next bottleneck that are hindering creatives and creativity and pushing beyond what they want to do, whether that's a digital human. It's all about visualizing data. And then how you're visualizing it. Am I visualizing it in a VR headset? Am I visualizing it on massive LED walls for virtual production? Am I visualizing it in an XR environment? So I've got a mix of virtual reality and augmented reality, so that, I'm designing a car and we're understanding the safety elements of that vehicle before you're doing crash tests. And these tools have been created based on what it is that either the client or the artist or the creative is needing and doing at that time. Mm-hmm. But now, as we're pushing into this next stage of virtual production, photorealism, where anything in this world that we're putting in a virtual world is photoreal. But you're also interacting with that content. You're making choices and decisions in that content. And then how we do that so that you're not hindered by compute that's in front of you, that you have this on-prem, off-prem solution that just scales up and down with you, right? Because that's the bottleneck right now. How much do I have on-prem? Do I need to render in a cloud? Oh, but then I have to set up everything within that cloud. How do we build this hybrid solution that it doesn't matter? Mm-hmm. And the footprint of compute doesn't matter. And so, as we look at what's next, it's the ability to have the capabilities to scale up and down on your compute and workflow on the fly. So it's not even a factor in the creativity that our clients are building. So I'm excited about what that looks like in the future from a sustainability standpoint and from an artist standpoint.
I love that. So as a regular Joe working remotely from their office, how will that impact their workflow?
It gives them the freedom to be able to have basically supercomputing at their fingertips when they need it, and pay for the use of that when they need it, versus this huge capital outlay that they would normally have, and to have to manage all of that. Because the more that we are pushing what's possible, and the more that we're pushing photorealism into the metaverse and recreating not just what's here in this world, but what, you have to have a digital twin of that. That's a lot of data. That's going to be critical in every business in the future. And so we need to make it affordable and easy to use and offer it up to everybody, so that it's not just big corporate companies that can afford to, have a digital twin. I know I'm getting all crazy techie, but I'm excited about how I feel that we can accomplish that for our clients, because even though we're a technology company, it's not about how many computers we sell or boxes. It's about how can we do more for less, and how can we have denser compute to be able to drive more versus more and more boxes out there, greater, larger footprint. That's not going to be helpful to anybody. And so we want to scale that down.
I love that, because as an event professional, we're already talking about the metaverse, and we're actually we are building events in the metaverse.
Yes.
And many people, they just can't necessarily wrap their mind around that. And they're like, oh, we're not ready for that. And we are so ready for that.
Yeah, it's already happening.
It's happening.
Right?
It's happened years ago. We're finally catching up to it. There's industries that have done this for quite a few years, and they've done it successfully.
We have been in this space since we started. It didn't have the name metaverse, right? It was a virtual environment.
Exactly.
Our automotive clients were connecting from Japan to Detroit to LA, and these virtual environments to, design the vehicles together, to launch vehicles in a virtual environment, to collaborate in that kind of way and work together in that kind of way. And, I think with COVID and what has happened, it's pushed things a little bit faster. But for us, it's that enterprise element of that is critical, because if you're designing a building or, a car, or creating products
or a space, like an event space, an experience, an activation, whatever it is that you're creating.
And you can do that in that space, figure it all out. It's so exciting. It's mind-blowing. Or bringing people back to perform, to this whole XR broadcast stuff is so much fun. It takes a whole nother experience for an audience member to experience content in different ways. And from being, at the live event to the broadcast of it, to there's just so many different ways to experience that content through, XR.
I love that. And it's like you said in the beginning, in the genesis of Silverdraft, when you had to show more than tell, it's a bit of that, what's happening right now, right? It's like for people to understand, to actually grasp the concept, it has to be some showing to happen before you can put it into words in a way that they capture the whole concept of it. And I see a lot of that with, the clients that I talk to and professionals that I have to have those conversations with. And there's some on the event platform building those worlds, right, that are all Web3 and all the 3D. And then the attendees that they're unsure, sounds cool. How will I, integrate myself in this new world? And what are the type of things that I'm going to be able to do or not do, or everything is possible, right? Once you open your mind to just let yourself free and create new things. I love that. And I think as women, especially, we have this creativity vein in us where we want to create more. We are creators. We create life. Of course, we want to create all the things.
Well, it's true, because it's really about what is possible. Well, anything's possible. What's the vision? What is it that you're wanting to accomplish? Okay, and now let's just put the workflow and the technology behind it to make it happen. And that's what we do on our end. We put the technology and the workflow and the compute and those technical pieces behind the creative vision that they're working to accomplish. And that willingness to, change it up and take the risk to make it happen. Every day I'm like, wow, the clients are coming up with these different things. And you're like, that's cool. Yeah, that can be done. Let's make it happen.
I love that. Well, let's pause just for a brief moment, as we take a sponsor break, and we'll be right back to continue this fascinating conversation, because as far as I'm concerned, it's something that it's super interesting to just talk about and dive deeper into.
Before we move any further, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our main sponsor, Trifan Events, which is a boutique event planning and production agency that will come alongside you, offering personalized event planning and technical support, strategic event design, production and technology management, and flawless execution for live, virtual, and hybrid events. The team at Trifan Events is passionate about planning and producing event experiences that get people involved with true moments of interaction, engagement, and co-creation, while offering white glove treatment throughout the entire planning process, enabling you to reach your event goals with the use of creativity, production tools, and event technology. To find out how Trifan Events can plan and produce your event become memorable, go to trifanevents.com.
Coming back to our conversation with our fascinating featured guest, Amy Guile, CEO and founder of Silverdraft, the leading builder of computing platforms for creative arts, graphics, and design. And changing tracks here for a moment, here's a bonus question for you, Amy. Do you ever get that look, never said out loud, but it kind of sounds like, girl, you're too pretty to be at this table, partake in these conversations. Why don't you just stick to that, like the hot girl stuff? How did you manage to break through those walls at first? Like when you literally had to grab your chair and bring it to the table just to have a seat there, or maybe you had to create your own table, which, many times it happens to be the case.
Well, I actually just allowed the egg on the face to happen, right? Like I allowed them all to think that I was just there to take notes, get coffee.
Look pretty.
Yes. And that's not to diminish myself in any way, but it's amazing what you can learn from just listening and observing. I have never felt the need to prove anything with regards to myself, that I know what we're capable of, what we can do for them. So I just allow it to sort of transpire and then boom, come in with the, with the piece. Here we go. And not be intimidated or uncomfortable with that. A willingness just to say, no, I know our stuff. I know where we're headed. And if you can't see that, then you're not ready to drive this level of tech regardless. And it doesn't really matter who the client is or what's happening. We deserve respect for the tech that we're bringing to the table. And we need to be willing to own that, because our goal is to help them, but they have to be willing to let us help them. And if they're not, then they're not the right client for us. And so that took patience. I get that look all the time. I think initially it was like a good at least 10, 15 minutes. Even ahead of time, I'd be like, okay, let them know I'm a female. Let them, so that I don't
send a picture of me.
Okay, look up. Right? But that's gotten easier over the years, I think. But I don't know. I don't worry about it. I just sometimes they even say, okay, you know what, with this client, Hardy, want to, just so that we don't have to deal with it, then I'll come in. Or he'll be like, she's my boss, right? And I'm like, you're getting more uncomfortable than I am. I could care less. I'm not offended by any of this. We are who we are, and what Silverdraft does speaks for itself. And again, I don't make it about me. It's more about what we can do to help and support them. But I'm not shy about saying, yeah, you just said that out loud and that's not appropriate. I stand up for myself. I defend myself, or I just say, yeah, I'm out. Right. Because, there's been some times it's just not okay.
Yeah.
And I don't put up with any of that, or put up if I see it with other females too. I mean, I'm feisty when it comes to that sort of thing. But I don't make it about me being a woman. I make it about the tech and what we can do for the client. But there's been some funny things that have gone down where I have, I'm like, yeah, actually, you're talking about me, my company. And yeah, that's not some guy from Iowa that's done XYZ. That's actually some girl from Idaho.
I know, right? It's like, oh, Idaho, Iowa. Is it like the same? No, not even geographically close.
Yeah.
So going back to the genesis of Silverdraft, in order for you, to be able to do that and confidently walk in that you stand, solidly on this technology, though, you have to have a team. Like you mentioned, you have an amazing team of people that are creative and are amazing in what they do. How do you find those people? How do you bring those people to come alongside you and support you in this dream?
Yeah, the way that we have done that, and I elevate our team and I value our team and what they bring to the table, and a willingness to say, I don't know, allow the team to excel at the things that they're brilliant at. And it's amazing how when you all come together and you're building it together, they'll fight for you. They will believe in it the same way that you do. And my co-founder, Dr. Srinidhi Varadarjian, he has been incredible from day one. My CTO, the team really just, we're in this together. And if I make a bad choice or I screw something up or I own it, if I'm unsure of something, we all get together and we talk about it. And okay, we're in this together. What do you think? What's the next step forward? We build technology for others to collaborate and to drive these things. We need to do that same thing within our own company, and we need to collaborate together. I look at that with our partners, our clients, that we're a team together. I know that some of our really big companies that we work with feel like they've been a part of building Silverdraft, and they have been. And I couldn't have done it without them either. So I think there's just this willingness to work in collaboration, and that's just ingrained in who we are. And it's amazing how really great people want to be a part of that. And, I hope we can continue to get really incredible people because, as we grow and scale, that tight-knit team, it is critical. It's absolutely critical. As soon as there's something that's amiss in that, you need to make choices and decisions really quickly to adjust that, because that is so important for that team and that collaborative nature. That's another thing I need to get better at.
As the leader that you are, that you've grown to be, your strong points, but you also are very much aware of your weak points that you're still working on. And that to me is what makes a leader be the type of leader that's worth following. And I think that's when you build that type of team around yourself, when you're humble enough to admit, no, I don't have all the answers. No, I don't have it all together. No, I'm not the best person in the room. Guess what? There's a lot better people that support me to do those things, amazing things that we do. And that just speaks, to your type of leadership. And to me, that is something that's laudable for sure. Now, there's this term I've always stand behind, community over competition. Well, recently, I've learned this other term, or maybe a mindset that I came to get familiar with and apply, and it's called co-opetition. And it's a mindset that combines competition and cooperation, that not everybody understands the roadmap of how this is supposed to work. So with that term in mind, how do you go about connecting with other potential partners in your local market that you like to cooperate with, but they're also competition, or they very much see you maybe as a threat or someone that's bringing a lot of amazing experience and ideas and constantly working on bigger and better things, and that can be overwhelming or that can be threatening? What are your best business practices in a small market when you have those bigger than life ideas and are looking for competition?
I love that phrase, right? Because I think I'm never one who wants to reinvent the wheel. If somebody's doing something that is impactful, then let's come together and let's collaborate and cooperate together to have an impact. And so, I think it's that way with competitors. And it's interesting. One of our big competitors is also a client, right? So there's this balance of a willingness to say, okay, you know what, you bring this to the table, we can bring this to the table. There must be some way we can come together, have greater impact. And, I think in a smaller market, there's this thing of we want to share our knowledge so that you can have greater impact and you can create these things and we can enable you in some kind of way, or you can maybe use our technology differently than we had ever even thought of or considered. And so I think competition is a good thing, but I think it's even more exciting when you can somehow come together, because when you can, you can have huge impact. I mean, I make this joke in talks all the time because it's just so mind-blowing to me that, there's a lot of really brilliant minds that are trying to go to Mars, right? And if they would just come together, we'd already be on Mars. We'd be up there right now, eating dinner, hanging out, having a grand old time. And so I'm always willing to say, okay, you may appear as a competitor, but maybe you're not. How can we help each other to achieve something that neither one of us have thought of yet?
No, I'm a strong believer of that. I mean, in my business, in the places that I operate in, it's a constant balance between cooperating with the competition because, yes, we can be partners, but we're also sort of like beating against each other, yet we can create amazing things together, and understanding the mindset that, there is work for everyone.
Right.
There's creative spaces for everyone. There's enough for everyone. We don't have to operate from a scarcity mindset. That's when amazing things can happen. Unfortunately, if not everybody is the same level of understanding or openness or cooperation within that competition mindset, then things can look a little messy, and it takes longer and it's more painful. Whereas it could be so much easier if we're both agreeing, on the same terms and figuring things out together. So I'm making that the word for the year.
I like it. Very
And
good.
to come to a finale here on our conversation, because it's been a fantastic conversation so far. And I'm so glad that we got to sit down and get to it after taking a little bit of time talking about it so long. And I just want to thank you, for bringing your authentic self to the table and just sharing, your experience and sharing your thoughts and your learned wisdom. I appreciate that so much. And in closing, because going back to some of the introduction that I was making about how the season focuses on mental and physical fitness, which is a whole another topic in itself. But because I can't really end the episode without touching on it and how important, mental fitness is for any professional out there that is faced with having to make decisions and has challenges that needs to be overcome and needs to build resilience and have the ability to think clearly and make decisions that are effective and efficient. So turning the question around, what are some ways in which, or some strategies or skills that you've built over time that you use to keep your body fit and especially your mind sharp in order to be able to operate at full capacity?
I would say it's one of the most difficult things about my job because there's so much all the time coming at me, and I have to force myself to make sure I'm taking care of myself physically and mentally, and that if I am going 24/7 nonstop, I'm going to crash and burn, and that's not going to be good for any of us. And so I really make sure that I'm getting regular massages. That makes a big difference for me. And my sleep is critical. If I'm not getting enough sleep, then I don't have the energy to make sure I'm physically active. I can't think clearly. I'm not as sharp as I'd like to be. And, recently it's been, I need to make sure I'm delegating enough that I don't have to do that piece of it. And it's okay for me to say, no, I can't do that piece of it. And so really prioritize. You've almost got to clear your brain to be able to think, right? And if I don't have some clear span in there to come up with, how all of these different pieces and parts connect together, then we're in trouble. So sleep, physical exercise, you're going to laugh at me. This is critical.
Those are not things to laugh about. They're important things.
These are the two critical things that other than, okay, I'm really regimented about my skincare, but every morning before I do anything, a huge glass of water with lemon every morning. And then I have one of those shaker machines, not the little small foot one, but the heavy duty that you stand on and help circulation through. This isn't about exercise. It's about moving in circulation within your body. I do that in the morning. And then I do it before I go to bed. And it's been a game changer for me on just inflammation. And I also think it just forces me for 10 minutes, so 20 minutes a day to just shut it down.
So it sounds like it's better than any strong cup of coffee to just wake you up in the morning.
take it out, then you can have your coffee. Like I got to do my water and then that, and then I can have my coffee. Coffee is critical. I'm not going to lie. The coffee is critical, but water, moisturizer, physical exercise, but that shaker thing. I need to be better about stretching. I think maybe I'll do that for 23. Let's make sure we're getting.
I know stretching is, especially as a heavy lifter, stretching can be like, I'm trying to get better at it. I mean, I feel like it's a waste of time. And a lot of people are like, no, it is not a waste of time. How do you not get injured by not stretching? I don't know. I'm just made of like iron. I don't understand. But going to what you just said about that block of creativity, it's funny because somebody was looking at my calendar the other day and they're like literally blocks in my calendar, and I call it block for creativity.
I love it.
I need it. When I know that I burn myself out is when I don't have any new fresh ideas.
Yeah.
When I cannot think of anything creative, I know I'm like, I just burned myself out and I need to scale back. I need to say no more. I need to respect my blocks. That's what I need to do.
Oh, it's funny because I don't tell my team this, but I will go on my calendar and I block out chunks of time so that I can actually get work done and free my mind so that, when our clients have these cool things that they want to do, I have to be able to have this free mindset to say, okay, how can that be doable? That's where like the producer mindset and the technology mindset and then the CEO of Silverdraft all kind of come together. Because it's you have to be willing to just, okay, here, this is what we can do.
It's in those empty spaces in the calendar where this is my time to think. And sometimes I get that time, also in the morning or when I work out or in the shower. Oh, I guess I'm amazing ideas in the shower. Sometimes I feel like I need to put a shower over like my desk. But I love those ideas. I think that the shaker, we need to figure out where that Amazon link is.
Oh, yeah. I think they're called vibration plates, but that sounds a little weird too.
Who knows what way is going to think that? So,
what is she doing?
Do your own research, people. Do your own research.
Almost went to an Amyism there, but it was very close.
I love it. Well, Amy, for anyone that would love to connect with you and learn more about you, where they can do that?
So they can follow me on LinkedIn or on Facebook, Instagram. I am there, or they can head over to silverdraft.com and they can send me messages there as well. Happy to talk with anybody.
Thank you so much for joining me on the air today. It's been a great pleasure to get to talk to you and learn a little bit of your journey and your secrets. I'm getting one of those plates.
It's really good. I'm not going to lie. It's really good.
I don't know what's going to happen when it's like my Tower of Pisa gets shaken.
It's kind of like, shh.
But it sounds amazing. I'm so excited to air this episode and make sure that anyone that's listening, subscribe so you don't miss it. We just launched a brand new YouTube channel for the podcast that houses all the video episodes of the last season, Women Behind the Scenes in Events and Event Productions. I think we are at about 15 followers now. So we'd love to grow that. And I need your help for that. If you are landing on it, make sure you also subscribe. And in the meantime, I look forward to connecting with you again at one of the local events here, Amy. And with that, stay healthy, happy, and fit, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Events Demystified podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to review it, rate it, and share it with other event professionals that could benefit from it. Connect with us on social at Events Demystified Podcast. We would love to hear from you and what you're up to. If you'd like to learn more about TreeFan Event services and find out if we're a good fit in supporting your event, can we help your event be successful with a 20-minute free consultation? Link in the episode's notes. Thanks for tuning in.